Hey guys, welcome back to another stream. I promised you guys a lot of content. I'm super excited. Adrian is a returning guest on my channel. I'm really sorry for being late. I always get super chatty with the guests behind stage and I can't control myself. And then I'm like, wait, we have a show to do. But Adrian, thanks so much for joining me. I'm so happy to have you on.
Yeah, of course. And I'll take part of the blame as well because I showed up right at the time that we had agreed upon. I was not early, so I will take some of the blame as well. It's not all Ellie's fault, okay?
No worries at all. I'm just happy to have you on. Obviously, there were some pretty crazy games of football on today in the Premier League, but we're here to talk about the Champions League because it's finally time for the Champions League to start again. There's a lot of games. I'm very excited about them. But let's start off talking with your team, Adrian, Benfica, who defeated Ajax quite remarkably, may I add, to beat them 3-2 on aggregate. And now they face Liverpool, which might be like maybe a worst case scenario for you
Yes.
guys. I don't want to make it sound terrible. But talk me through how Benfica have been doing because you're going to have way more context than I ever could on their current performances.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you said that they got through quite remarkably against Ajax, it was quite remarkable and surprising, really, because Benfica has been having a strange season. Fired our manager back in December. It's been one of those, but you know how Chelsea fires their manager and then they go on to win the Champions League or something like that? That doesn't happen with us. So we're struggling a little bit, as you know, evidenced by this past weekend. We lost against Braga 3-2. It was another terrible match, but we're having one of those seasons where our European form is better than our domestic form, which you sometimes see that happen. Now, am I expecting us to do anything against Liverpool? Probably not, even though Liverpool haven't really been themselves lately either. In some ways, they've been sort of, not playing well for 60 minutes and then they'll get a result somehow, or they'll get a goal somehow and end up winning, but they have that great defense, so they get results over the line. With us, I mean, Ellie, honestly, I think it's just going to be us like sitting back and trying to defend for as long as we can, and then use Darwin Nunez on the counter, going in the other direction. A player who has been highly sought after and for good reason. And he's basically, with him and Rafa, we have a lot of speed in the attack. But the major questions will come in our defense, which I think will be very difficult to deal with Liverpool's attack in this case.
So walk us through how Benfica kind of got through against Ajax and maybe if they need to have a similar type of performance or approach the game in the same manner to play against Liverpool, or do you see any differences in the style that maybe you're expecting between those two games?
No, I think it's going to be pretty similar. So the first leg against Ajax, Benfica had a terrible first half, and then they slowly got better throughout the match and they started to play on the front foot a little bit more. But in that second leg, I mean, it was basically Benfica just sitting back, and, two veterans in Otamendi and Vertonghen played pretty heroically in defense. They really shut down Ajax. And I think Vlachodimos only had to actually face 2 shots in that second leg against Ajax, despite them dominating possession and pretty much every other vertical. And then we just snatched a goal out of nowhere from a free kick, a header from Darwin Nunez, towering header because he's starting to get better in the air. And that was it. That was enough to put us through. So I think that we'll probably have a similar approach and try to score goals from set pieces because our delivery is fairly good, thanks to Grimaldo. And we do have guys like Otamendi and Vertonghen and Darwin Nunez who can get up for headers. But I mean, I can't really see us doing anything that would, have us on the front foot against Liverpool. I can't see us dominating possession in their end. It's going to be a lot of counter-attacking through Darwin and Rafa and trying to steal goals from set pieces, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like Liverpool's defense, like, it's not impenetrable, if that makes sense. Like, we've seen them concede goals. I've seen them at points in this season where they go up and then they concede 1 or 2 goals. So I don't think that they're going to be like 1,000%. You cannot score against them. But what do you think would need to happen for maybe Benfica to get the advantage? Because you're playing at home in this match, so ideally you would like to have some sort of advantage on your home ground. What would need to happen? Would Liverpool have to have an extremely off day? would Benfica just need to defend for their lives, even and ride the waves of Liverpool attack?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's basically it. I think that Benfica would have to be close to perfect, both defensively and how they transition out of defense into the attack. So let's say Trent Alexander-Arnold is getting forward a lot and he's, doing what he does, Alexander-Arnold things, trying to dictate the play as almost like a playmaker. If he pushes forward and there's a lack of cover, then since Darwin tends to play on the left, our left, their right, that's an area that I could see us exposing them a little bit, is on those flanks. And I think that that's going to be the main focus for Benfica, is defend incredibly well and then make sure you have that ball, whether it's Rafa on the right or Darwin on the left, to try and attack them very, very quickly. And that's how we could maybe see Benfica hurt them. Sit tight defensively, stay solid, stay disciplined. And then as they draw out Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, try and hit them with that out ball quickly. But that was honestly, Ellie, that was one of my biggest complaints, at least against Ajax, was we would defend, and then we would just like kick the ball back to them because Darwin and Rafa would be like pinned in our own end. So I'm scared that's going to happen again because the transition, the out ball just wasn't there. So hopefully they've worked on that and they've, watched some tape and they'll try and improve upon it so that we can hurt them on the counter.
Yeah, and something that could be, the lighting is like really weird as the sun is starting to set. Sorry, guys. I just realized I have this massive mark on my face. Something that could potentially play into your favor, well, two things. Trent is coming back from injury. I think he was on the bench this weekend, but he didn't play any minutes. So he might not be the freshest Trent Alexander-Arnold. But the other thing, and I think that this is a pretty big point, is that Liverpool play Man City away the following weekend, sandwiched in between the two Benfica games. And I think that this could be a game that could determine who wins the Premier League. So maybe we could even potentially see them. I don't want to say that I think they're going to try to prioritize each game, but especially maybe next week, they could be tired from that Man City game. They could have two eyes on it in this game, especially with no away goals as well. Maybe they think, oh, we'll just go there, try to, do our best, but then we can bring it back to Anfield. So do you see that point affecting how Liverpool might approach this game at all?
I hope so. I hope so, but I know just knowing Klopp and how he operates, he doesn't want to lose any match, right? So we'll see. I whenever I look at that and I think, oh, maybe, just maybe they'll, go a little bit easier in the first game, or they'll have to go a little bit easier in the second game. I sort of get some false hope, but but I don't know. The thing is that second game at Anfield, Benfica going away. Funnily enough, Benfica went away to Anfield in like 2006 or something like that and ended up getting a win. But that was a vastly different Liverpool side, 16 years ago now. So I can't really see it happening. And it was a different Benfica side as well. Very, very different Benfica side. So I can't really see that happening. But God, I hope so. I hope that they just get run ragged against City next weekend, and then hopefully Benfica can pull off some sort of miracle away, just as they did against Ajax. And to be honest with you, Benfica's been proving me wrong time and time again in the Champions League, or at least against Ajax, I guess. It's just been one round. What am I talking about? They definitely proved me wrong. And I hope that they do it again, but my rational brain isn't allowing me to really believe it.
Well, not to give you like too much hope, but I'm just trying to be optimistic over here. Like, if it's not going so well in the league, they only have this to really focus on. So they're going to put everything that they have into this game. I want to apologize to you guys in the chat because my screen is frozen and I like can't scroll or click on anything. And so, anyways, what was I going to say? Oh, I wanted to ask you about the away goals rule because I haven't gotten your take on that. And I think that that's really interesting because in the in the first couple of games, we saw that teams really sat back and tried to just not concede a goal if they were playing away first, like Real Madrid against PSG. And then they tried to take the game back to their home ground and win. And I felt that the game wasn't necessarily like as exciting as maybe it would be if you had an away goal rule. But what do you think about it?
I can see both sides. I mean, it's unfortunate that a lot of first legs, if it ends in a draw, it's basically a meaningless match that you just played, and it doesn't result to anything. It doesn't have any effect on the outcome, really. But I found that there were moments where, for example, Juventus versus Villareal. Juventus went away to Villareal. They got 1-1. They would have just sat back for a 0-0 at home in the second leg, because that would have been enough for them to go through. And I think that, I mean, I don't know. I think that I'm happy for this edition of the Champions League to just see how it plays out, because I didn't find that we were really lacking in a lot of excitement in the round of 16. And maybe that's just my bias because of Benfica and they actually made it through. And I'm just really happy about that. But I think overall, I found that most of the ties were pretty exciting and had a lot of goals throughout. So, yeah, I think that I'm okay without it, because I don't know. I was never a huge fan of the away goals rule to begin with. I found that it was sort of corny in some ways.
I always hated it when it went against us, but
Sure,
when
yeah.
it's for
Yeah.
us, I loves it. But in a way, I feel like it kind of forces you to, like, I don't know, if you know that you're down and you play away first, it kind of forces you to come out and make sure that you're not defending because you need to get that away goal. Um, but yeah, I see where you're coming from. And I think when it was in place, I was like, why is this a rule? I hate this. This makes no sense. So that now that we don't have it, I'm like, oh, but I kind of miss it. So
Yeah, I feel like it just sort of flipped. Like like teams go away now and they like don't really care to win. They just want to like get a decent result, whether that be a goalless draw or just a draw of any kind, really, and then try and use the home advantage. Whereas before it was like when you would go away, you would try to get at least a goal, not necessarily win the match. Even a 2-1 loss or something was still a decent result. But it's just sort of flipped now, and now playing at home is more important than playing away, type of thing for teams. But we'll see. Maybe there will be some sort of huge analytical report that will come out that shows that it was far less exciting this Champions League. I mean, people are always saying, this edition of the Champions League sucks compared to the old days, or this World Cup sucks compared to the others. So we'll see. We'll see, Elliot. I don't know.
we will say. I will say though, I feel like it does give a very big advantage to the team that plays home second, but maybe they always have an advantage. I don't know. It just really feels like they have an extra advantage without the away goals. But turning back to the preview, what is your score prediction for Benfica versus Liverpool in this first leg?
First leg. I mean, Liverpool did a good job against FC Porto, the best team in Portugal right now. But I made that same argument when I said that Ajax destroyed the defending champion Sporting as well, and we did end up making it through. So there goes my logic. But I think that ultimately Liverpool is going to score at least 2 goals in this one. I'm going to say 3-1. 3-1 Liverpool in that first leg.
Interesting. At the end, I'll get your score prediction for all of the after the 2 legs, we'll go through score prediction. Cool. Moving on. Man City versus Atletico Madrid. Atletico knocked out Manchester United, and they go back to Manchester to play at the Etihad. They have 5 wins in their last 5 games in La Liga, but their defending title season, it's not been going to plan. But in those 5 games, they've scored 12 goals and conceded 3. However, Man City are one of the favorites to win this tournament. So what are you thinking? Could this be a more tight game than many people are giving Atletico credit for?
Yes, and that's what I said in my preview, actually, is that I think that this could ultimately be, I think it could be a trap game for Guardiola. I think that Simeone is the perfect antithesis to Pep Guardiola.
Ooh.
And I actually, for one reason or another, it's just a gut feeling that's probably not based in any sort of reality at all. But I actually had Atletico going through in this one. And I think that Atletico is just sort of trending in the right direction now. They're on fire domestically after having a pretty whack start to their season. Let's be real. They were not doing well. Jan Oblak was just not looking like himself at all, but now he's sort of found himself again, and the attack is up and running. João Felix is in great form. Angel Correa is in great form. Luis Suarez just scored recently. So I think that this could be a more difficult proposition for Man City than a lot of people are giving Atleti credit for.
No, I definitely think so as well. what's the word? Like being selfish. I kind of want no, I do want Atletico to go through, one because I'm based in Madrid, so for me it's content wise it's amazing, and two, if Chelsea go through, I really don't want to face Manchester City again in the Champions League. I hate facing English teams in the Champions League. Like I find it absolutely terrible. But what do you think the key is going to be for Atletico to be able to beat Man City? And kind of going off of that, who do you think the key players are going to be in this match?
I think that Atleti's approach is going to be like classic Atletico Madrid, classic Diego Simeone. So I think that where they're going to win and lose the match is going to be similarly to Benfica, how quickly they can transition out of defense, because we saw them against Manchester United sitting back for so long, sitting back. But when they wanted to attack through Griezmann and João Felix and Llorente on that right side, they look good. They look good going forward when they want to attack, and they've started to find goals recently. So I think that it's going to be similar in that they're going to sit very deep and defensively. Also, the midfield battle is going to be an interesting one. Diego Simeone always sort of keeps us on our toes. You know that Koke is always going to be in there, but the rest of it, it's sort of could go either way. And I could see
Carrasco is back. He was suspended, so he's back, and I do think he's going to be playing in this match.
Yeah, I think I hope so, because he when he went away to China and then came back again, it was sort of like, what kind of player is he going to be? But he really found himself in that Simeone system, playing as like a wing back, and it's looked really good. And also Rodrigo de Paul, I think, is going to be integral to their midfield and sort of the creativity that he brings to that midfield in releasing guys like João Felix and the guys on the wing. So yeah, I think that, honestly, sorry to be boring and sort of repeat my answer, but I think it's going to be a similar kind of approach from Atletico Madrid, and just sort of sitting tight and trying to pick their moments when they go forward to catch City out. And I believe, is Kyle Walker suspended for Manchester City as well?
I think he might be back.
Or he's back? Okay.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure. I was doing some reading, and he wasn't a predicted XI.
Okay. So, I mean, what's your take on it? How do you see this one going down? Because I personally think that it's just going to be classic Simeone, sit back tight and try and transition quickly.
I think they're going to try to not concede in this match as much as possible. I think that they would be very happy with a draw, and then to go back to the Wanda Metropolitano next week and play Man City with their home support. And one of the things that I really noticed against Manchester United, and this is, I think, very key to how Diego Simeone tends to play and how he tends to organize his side, is that when they go up, when they score a goal, they know so well how to frustrate the other team. They know how to defend, how, like, which tackles to make, taking longer to take a free kick or to throw in the ball, or just like these little antics that tend to change the game and kind of swing it in your direction and really frustrate the other team. I think he's so good at doing that. I really could see it going either way, but I don't know. Atletico's kind of my team here if I had to pick a team in La Liga. Obviously, Chelsea is my number one, but if I had to pick, because I'm living in Madrid, I don't know. I kind of have this gut feeling that we could see an upset in this game, or at least over the two legs. But who do you think is going to be like the key player for Atletico, and maybe conversely, I can't speak today, who the key player will be for City as well?
I'm going to stick with my man. I'm incredibly biased, but I'm going to stick with my man, João Felix, who was recently voted, I think, player of the month for Atletico Madrid. And rightfully so. He's been in fantastic form. We're finally starting to see signs of what we saw of him at Benfica, and more consistently, I should say, at Atletico, because he's always shown flashes. And so I think that his sort of killer instinct in front of the goal that he's recently found, and just how good and how informed he's been in front of the goal with his finishing, I think that that's going to be absolutely key, because it's probably going to be a match or a tie of few chances for Atletico Madrid for the most part. And so he's going to have to bury them. And I think that he will. That's my pick.
Amazing. And what is your score prediction for this first leg?
First leg, I'm going to go 1-1. I'm going to say, I'll get very specific here for you, Ellie. I'm going to say a very early crappy goal from Atletico Madrid, and then they start to sit back and protect it a little bit, and then City eventually find their way through after missing millions of chances.
Interesting. That's kind of what happened, at
Mm.
least at home, against Manchester United. I was at that game, and you saw that Atletico actually had 2, 3, 4 chances in that match. They hit the crossbar a couple of times. They were pretty unlucky, but then it just opened up, and as soon as Elanga got the ball, I was sitting right up at the top, and I saw the space wide open. I was like, "This is going to be a goal," and it was a goal. It was crazy, but I like that. I like that you said that you're not discounting Atletico, because I think a lot of people are thinking that City are going to steamroll them, and I don't think that's going to be the case. Um, let's move on. I'll save my team for last. Let's move on to Villarreal versus Bayern Munich. Villarreal have 3 losses in their last 5 games in La Liga. Unai Emery does know how to play like knockout ties. He's great in the Europa League. Champions League, not so much. Got a pretty difficult tie. How do you see it going down?
I can't see anything happening besides Bayern making their way through. Like, with respect to Unai Emery, it's actually someone I want to make a video on, just because his magic in Europa League knockout rounds, and now kind of, I mean, getting past Juve, we can get into that later, but he seems to have this knack for getting through champion or knockout rounds when he probably has no business to do so. And we saw Villarreal do that all Europa League long last season until they ended up winning the thing against Manchester United. And so Bayern's just a different proposition altogether, aren't they, Ellie? I mean, there's one of those teams that's just like a machine. Once they get a goal, that's the thing with Bayern, is if you can keep them off of the scoreboard for long enough, they start to get frustrated, and maybe you'll catch them on a day where it just doesn't happen for them. But as soon as they get that goal, then they kind of frenzy, and there's 2, 3, 4 coming at you after that. I mean, we can speak to that. I think that we kept Bayern off the score sheet for a long time until like the 60th minute or something, and then it was like 4 or 5 goals. I can't even remember the score. I've blocked it out.
That happened with Chelsea a couple of years ago as well.
Yeah, and they've done that against Arsenal. They do that against Tottenham. They do that against Barcelona. Like, they're savages, these guys. So I think that for all of the stern defending that Villarreal have shown they're capable of, as they did against Juventus, as they did all last season in the Europa League, I don't know. This is just, I can't see it working against Bayern Munich. I think that with the form that Lewandowski's in again this season, with Muller, Coleman's been in fantastic form recently, Gnabry, there's just too many weapons for them on that pitch to see Villarreal come out on the other side alive.
In the rounds of 16, I was thinking, like, are they really going to to drop out of the Champions League? And then they were like, no. Like, I think the score was like 7-1 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't even believe I brought this up as a possibility, because it's Bayern. Yeah, I don't see this really going any other way. What's your score prediction?
For this one? Yeah, keep it short. For the first leg, it's in Spain, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say 2-0 Bayern. I'll keep it short on that one.
Keeping respectable.
Yeah.
I think I would go for like a 3-0. I think it's going to be, I don't know. This is the one I do feel like could be a bit of a blowout, but we never know. And finally, for me, I think the most exciting game as a neutral fan, well, you can tell, well, you're not a neutral fan, you have Benfica, but for me, I think it would be the most exciting game if I were a neutral fan. Chelsea versus Real Madrid. Obviously, Chelsea knocked Real Madrid out of the Champions League last season in the semis, but we had a very different team then. We had Ben Chilwell, who we have been missing very sorely in our team. And then we have all of the outside drama that we won't get into the details, but of course, it does affect the team. And it must be really difficult to deal with. So Chelsea play at home first. How are you feeling about Chelsea's chances?
I mean, ultimately, let me just start by saying I think that this weekend is a blip. We saw Chelsea lose 5-2 against West Brom last year as well. It's just, these things happen now and then, even to the best teams.
The international break as well. Yeah. Like, we always have this happen.
Of course. And so I think that anyone who's reading too much into that, you're doing yourself a disservice in doing so. I think that Chelsea is going to go through in this one. I think that Real Madrid have shown recently that as much as I want to believe in Carlo Ancelotti as a manager, and as much as I do respect him for what he's achieved as a manager, I think that recently in his most recent jobs, if I look at Napoli and I look at Everton and I look at now at Real Madrid, he does sort of get guilty of just sort of not adjusting, just sort of, it seems like he's just fielding players and saying like, let your talent speak for yourself kind of thing. Because that was awful in El Clasico, wasn't it? That was horrendous. And we've seen time and time again, when Benzema isn't on the pitch, they struggle. They really, really, really struggle. So Benzema's back. And even with Benzema coming back, they didn't look great against Celta Vigo again this past weekend. Yeah. 3 penalties. 2 of them went in. So I don't know. I think that he looked really good following that PSG game where they knocked them out in that second half. But even so, that was like one half of football, 1 30-minute span where Real Madrid actually looked like the better team in that tie. And PSG does sort of have a history of collapsing, don't they?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So I think that, well, Real Madrid, you always have to respect them, and you have to respect them because of the players that they have in that team that can, drag the team over the line time and time again. They have done so. Luka Modric, especially, Benzema, especially. I think that Chelsea and their organization and their defense, I think that they'll sort of pick them apart. And I'm really going to highlight Real Madrid's left back position. I think that Mendy might be back.
I think he's back. Yep.
I think he's back. So that is a boost for them, because otherwise I think that, and you'll have to tell me, is Reece James back yet? He is, right?
He is.
He is. Yeah. Because I think that if Mendy wasn't back, that right side would just torch Real Madrid. Yeah. But with Mendy back, that is a huge boon to their defense. But I still think that Chelsea will just overrun them. Maybe not overrun them on the score line, but I don't think that Benzema and Real Madrid's attack are going to be too happy going up against that back line.
Yeah, and you made like a really good point that I want a lot of Chelsea people to kind of think about, because I think a lot of Chelsea fans saw the 4-0 scoreline against Barcelona and they said, oh yes, like we are definitely going to play amazing against them. They were without Benzema, they were without Mendy. They had Nacho playing as a left back, then he was doing super poorly against Dembele. So then they brought David Alaba to play at left back and moved him, I think, to right back. That's not going to be the case against Chelsea. Like, I do think both of those players are going to be back fit in this match. Casemiro should be back as well. So I don't think it's going to be as much of a walk in the park. And like you said, it's a boost for us that we have Reece James, but Mendy is super, super fast. So I think, like you said, if he was out, maybe we would have had a bit more, I don't know, more, I don't want to say more luck, but it just would have been a little bit of an easier matchup because Reece James, I think, is so strong and he can really pull magic out, which we've seen him do, especially this season. He's one of the highest goal contributors for Chelsea, and he was out for many months, which is insane. But I don't know. As a Chelsea fan, I'm a little bit nervous just because I feel like Real Madrid always fancy their chances in the Champions League. But you mentioned Chelsea's backline being super strong. As a Chelsea fan, that left back spot, whatever you want to call it, is such a weakness for us. Having Ben Chilwell out, what he brought to the team, attacking-wise, defensively, was just so important. And we don't have anybody who's that level. We have Marcus Alonso, who I think has been poor whenever he's been called upon. Maybe you have Malang Sarr, but he's super young. I wouldn't throw him into a Champions League match against Real Madrid. Saul, I wouldn't play him at left wing back. Maybe Azpilicueta. What do you do with that left wing back spot?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you could answer that better than I could, really. But I think what will give you some hope in that left wing back spot is how Carvajal hasn't looked great for Real Madrid on the right either. And the right wing position for Real Madrid is sort of like, Vinicius and Benzema are written in stone, and then the right wing, it could be Rodrigo, like it could be someone else, it could be it could be Asensio, it could be anyone. that's the one position that isn't really locked in because they haven't really found someone that can deliver as consistently as Benzema and Vinicius. But I mean, who do you expect will be played in that left wing back spot?
I expect Alonso.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of hoping for Aspie. And I think going forward, Aspie isn't going to give you as much. Like Marcos Alonso does have the ability to produce something attacking wise, but I just don't
Yeah.
think that he does it consistently enough for us to be able to say, okay, he should start in a Champions League match. But he is technically the starting left wing back. Since Reece James is fit, he was rested against Brentford up until the 60th-ish minute. So he only played 30 minutes. I think he's going to start. And then I think that we're going to see a back three of maybe Christensen, Thiago Silva, Rudiger. So I think Aspie would be available.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be Aspie for Christensen and you have Marcus Alonso in that left wing back spot, or you play Christensen and play Aspie in that left wing back spot, which he can do. He's going to be stronger defensively than Marcus Alonso, but I feel like it's a 50-50 shot at this point. I don't really know which way we're going to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, you basically highlighted the issue with a lot of wing backs, honestly, in Marcos Alonso, in that they offer so much going forward, but defensively there's a lot to be desired. And maybe that will be, as you've highlighted, the way forward for Real Madrid. Do you think that Eden Hazard is going to feature?
No, I think he's injured.
He's injured
He's
again?
perpetually injured. Yeah, it's really
I
hard to
can't
keep
keep
up
up.
with. Yeah, because he's always injured. When he played against us last year, I was like, please, Hazard, I love you, but don't do anything against us, please, please, please. Like, my heart can't take it. I think he's probably regretting his choice to move to Real Madrid massively, because he left. Chelsea ended up winning the Champions League, knocking out Real Madrid in the way.
Ouch.
And he hasn't featured, and it pains my soul because I love Eden Hazard so much as a player. I think he's incredible, and he just hasn't been able to reproduce that form for Madrid. I think his injuries have really taken over, though. I think he has a metal plate or something in his ankle that's really messed up. But yeah, it's sad. I'm just thinking about what I want to ask next. Okay. Where do you think this game is going to be won and lost?
I think on the flanks, I think each team has reason to be a little bit nervous about their fullback positions. Carvajal on the right, or whoever it is that's going to play on the right. The fullbacks have sort of been an issue for Real Madrid this season all along, because clearly Ancelotti wants to stick with Alaba and Militão in the middle. And then
Yep.
it's either a Nacho on the left or on the right, or God knows
Yeah.
Marcelo can't be out there in a match like this because he'll just get destroyed. But
Let's
yeah,
play Marcelo. Let's do it.
I know. Yeah. I mean, respect to Marcelo. Marcelo
Of
going
course,
forward is a saucy boy like that. He's enjoyable to watch, but in defense,
defensively.
ugh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that both sides have reason to sort of fear for their left or the right back position, depending on which team you're looking at. And I think that that's sort of going to be the key, is who can play the least worse in those positions. The left wing back for Chelsea and right back for Carvajal
Yeah.
at Real Madrid.
I really wonder what Thomas Tuchel's going to do, because I definitely would have no idea. And that's why he makes the big bucks to make these decisions, because I'm very 50-50 between playing Marcus Alonso and Aspie. I don't know. I do think Aspie starts at some point because he's the captain, whether it's at right center back or left wing back, he's going to start somewhere. But what's your score prediction for this match?
So the first one's at Stamford Bridge, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to go with 1-0 Chelsea for this first leg.
Ooh.
How about you? What are you saying? Or do you not want to put that out there? I won't force you into it.
I haven't decided. I'll say something, but I'm going to say that I retain the right to change my mind in my match preview whenever I put that out. Because I get really nervy. I hate predicting draws, but I'm gonna go for 1-1. I just feel like Benzema, he could pull anything out at any moment, but I really hope that that's not the case.
Hey, I mean, draws happen. You know, it's a reality of football. So don't feel bad predicting a draw.
Yeah, but my team is playing home, so I should predict a win because then they're
True.
going to the Bernabeu, which is not going to be easy by any means either. But let's see. So quickly, between the two legs, I'm just going
Mhm.
to spit the draw, and you say what you think the full-time result is at the end of the second leg.
Okay.
Benfica versus Liverpool, or Liverpool versus Benfica.
I'm going to say I don't remember what my original predictions were. Let's forget those. Clean slate. I'm going to say on aggregate 4-2 Liverpool.
Okay, I think you said 3-1 in the first leg,
Oh, okay.
so I think
Okay.
so.
So
So
1-1
the
second leg. Yeah, we're
yeah, Man City, Atletico versus Man City.
don't remember what I said at all. But I think that Atletico is going to go through 3-2.
Interesting. Okay, I think you might have said a 1-1. I don't remember either. Bayern versus Villarreal.
6-1 Bayern.
Ooh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, I feel. And then Real Madrid versus Chelsea.
2-1 Chelsea. Close,
I'm
close.
so nervous. I'm going to this match and I'm going to be sitting with the Real Madrid fans because I
Mm.
can't get a ticket through Chelsea. I can only get it through Real Madrid. And if we win, I'm going to be so ecstatic. If we lose, that's going to be the most difficult day of my life. Like, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah, that's going to be bad. But I mean, hey, look, 1-0 at Stamford Bridge and then 1-1 at the Bernabeu. You're fine. You're doing fine
Let's make it happen. I'm gonna message the boys like, let's go, come on.
there.
As if I have contact with anybody, but let's let's just pretend that I can. In my dreams. Thank you, Adrian. I want to be cognizant of your time. I'm sorry, guys, I couldn't get to the chat. Like, it's so frozen right now. Like, I just can't scroll and click on things. I don't know why. So I apologize for that. I usually do try to make this a bit more interactive as well, but it wasn't working well. But Adrian, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And let everybody know where they can find you.
Of course, yeah, it's pleasure is mine. And I have a YouTube channel called Rabona TV. Other than that, as you can see by my little name tag here, Rabona_TV on Twitter. Tweet at me. Say stuff to me. I'll say stuff back.
And I've put Adrian's Twitter in the description below so that you guys can find it super easy. And his YouTube channel is also tagged in the title of this, but it has like a bajillion subscribers, so you should know which YouTube channel is his. But guys, thanks so much for joining. Have a lot of content planned, especially around the Madrid games, which I'm very excited and very nervous for. And I'm not going to be sleeping much the next 2 weeks. But hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, drop it a like, sub to the channel, sub to Adrian as well. And until next time, which probably like tomorrow, I'm out. Bye.